He wasn't the flashiest of them all, and he wasn't the name on the back of every kid's shirt. But when Manchester United needed a mission done, when they needed to silence a superstar, they sent Park Ji-sung, and legends hated seeing him coming. While Ronaldo dazzled and Rooney scored, Park Ji-sung was the tactical weapon Sir Alex Ferguson trusted with missions no one else could handle. Opposing playmakers feared him, and they had good reason to. Ji-sung was relentless. And in case you need a reminder, this is the story of the South Korean engine who wasn't just good, he was great, and maybe even underrated. Before we dig into the brilliance of Park Ji-sung, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on more football truth bombs. Park Ji-sung's rise to becoming Sir Alex Ferguson's secret weapon wasn't exactly your classic football fairy tale. Nah, this was a path full of turns most folks didn't see coming, even Park himself. Born and raised in South Korea, then sharpened in the hustle of Japanese football, Park wasn't just your typical wonder kid hyped up by the Asian football community. But what did he have? Relentless energy, a crazy high work rate, and a football IQ that was off the charts. And guess who noticed all that? Bush Hiddink, a manager who knew a thing or two about building winners. After the 2002 World Cup, where Park and Hiddink helped South Korea make that unforgettable run to the semifinals, Hiddink took up the job at PSV Eindhoven in the Netherlands. And like any smart coach, he brought his trusted players with him. In 2003, Park and fellow South Korean Lee Young-pyo followed their mentor to Europe. The truth is, Park Ji-sung's early days at PSV was mid at best, and that is me putting it nicely. He was joining a squad packed with serious talent like Arjen Robben and Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. And the moment the South Korean landed in the Eredivisie, the spotlight felt more like a magnifying glass. And not in a good way. Fans didn't understand the hype. Spending that kind of money on a Korean player mid-season? A lot of them saw it as a gamble, maybe even a PR move to get some love from the Asian market. Then, just 4 games in, Park needed surgery. And that's when things really turned sour. By the time he returned, he wasn't 100%, not even close. But nuance didn't matter. The crowd had made up their minds, and just like that, Park was getting booed by his own fans who saw him as a flop. But here's the thing about Park Ji-sung. He doesn't fold under pressure. He grows from it. By his 3rd season, the narrative flipped. Park didn't just regain his form, he dominated. He delivered in crunch time, scoring in the domestic playoffs to send PSV to the Champions League. And once they were in, he went off. PSV topped a tough group featuring Rosenborg and Panathinaikos, and even held their own against Arsenal. Then came the knockout rounds. In the round of 16, they steamrolled Monaco 3-0. Yup, the same Monaco that had made the final the season before. Then they knocked out Lyon in the quarterfinals, and just like that, they had to play a star-studded AC Milan in the semifinals. Every footballer has that one game where they announce themselves to the world. For Park, it was in the game against Milan. It wasn't just that he scored the opening goal that ended Dida's 10-hour Champions League clean sheet streak. He was everywhere on the pitch, giving the performance of a lifetime. Milan would go through on away goals after a 3-3 aggregate tie, but Park had already done enough that season to convert the fans who once booed him to his side. His Champions League performances were so impressive that UEFA nominated him for their 2005 Forward of the Year award. By the summer of 2005, Park wasn't just PSV's engine, he was on Ferguson's radar. The next chapter, Old Trafford. Sir Alex Ferguson had just lost Roy Keane, his on-field general, in the summer of 2005. And if you know Fergie, you know he wasn't just shopping for flashy names. He needed soldiers, intelligent, versatile, selfless players who could execute a plan without blinking. But here's the thing, United's interest in Park Ji-sung didn't start with that performance against Milan. Nope, it actually began in the Champions League quarterfinal tie against Lyon. Funny thing is, Manchester United had actually sent a scout to check out Michael Essien. But as the story goes, the scout couldn't stay focused on Essien. His eyes kept moving to the way of Park Ji-sung. And after the season ended, Park got a call that would change his life. His agent came to him and said, "Sir Alex Ferguson wants to speak with you." Park thought it was a prank. Manchester United? Seriously? But as he would find out, this was no prank because Fergie really wanted him at Old Trafford. United got him for just €7 million, which, in hindsight, is one of the smartest bits of business the club ever did. It wasn't a splashy transfer. There were no big unveiling posters, no Adidas campaigns, just quiet skepticism. Some pundits rolled their eyes and labeled him as a market ploy, a shirt seller for the Asian market. Another commercial move. But inside the dressing room, it didn't take long for his new teammates to understand. Park wasn't there to sell jerseys. He was there to win. Now, if you've never seen Park Ji-sung play, you can think of him as a mix between N'Golo Kante and Thomas Müller. If you mix Kante's crazy work rate and defensive hustle with Thomas Müller's smart movement and knack for popping up in the right places, you'd basically get Park Ji-sung. Dude could press like a machine. corner every blade of grass, and still find space to hurt you going forward. Ferguson knew this already and used him like a Swiss Army knife in the midfield. Right wing, central midfield, defensive corner, you name it. Wherever the team needed a gap plugged or a threat neutralized, Pac was the guy. Not because he was the flashiest, but because he always got the job done. And I'm telling you, his work rate was unreal. We're talking 10 to 12 kilometers per game, week in, week out. The man ran like his boots were powered by a battery pack. That's how he earned the nickname Three Lung Pac. The fans at Old Trafford gave him that out of pure respect. They saw what he was doing every match, even when the cameras didn't. He wasn't just running for the sake of it either. Everything he did had a purpose. He dragged defenders away to create lanes for Ronaldo, opened up channels for Rooney, dropped deep to help Carragher Scholes build out from the back. It was like watching someone play chess at sprint speed. And to let you know how much of an impression he made in his first season, on October 18th, 2005, during a Champions League match against Lille, Pac came on for Ryan Giggs, who handed him the armband, making him become the first Asian player to ever captain Manchester United. Let that sink in. This was a club with legends, world-class stars, global fame, and here was Pac, quietly earning that kind of trust in his first season. In December of 2005, he finally opened his goal account in a League Cup clash against Birmingham City, but the real turning point came when Arsenal came to Old Trafford. United needed a statement performance, and Pac delivered. He scored the second goal in a 2-0 win that day, sealing the match and showing once again that he wasn't just built for big games, he thrived in them. You could feel the crowd shifting. He wasn't just the hard-working guy with a nice attitude anymore. He was a problem for top teams. By the end of that first season, the whole narrative had flipped. What started as, he's here to sell shirts, had become, we can't play a big game without him. And through all that, he still finished his debut season with 45 appearances across all competitions. Think about that. For a player who came from outside Europe's traditional power leagues, adjusting to the brutal pace of the Premier League, he barely missed a beat. And so that you don't miss a beat, how about you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already? It helps more than you know, and you don't want to miss stories like this. Have you done that already? Good, let's get back to it. So after a solid first season at United, things took a tough turn. The 2006 to 2007 season was one to forget for Pac, seeing how injuries hit him hard. He could only manage to play 14 matches, but still had 7 goal contributions in them. He traveled to America mid-season to treat a reoccurring knee injury, meaning he was sidelined for 9 months. That kind of layoff can derail a player's momentum, especially in a team as competitive as Manchester United. But when he came back the following season, Pac picked up right where he left off. It just so happens that United were in the Champions League quarterfinals at that point, and as such, Pac's energy was very much needed. Fergie wasted no time starting him against Roma, where he did not only assist a Rooney goal, but ran the midfield ragged, doing all the things that don't show up in the highlight reels. Then came Barcelona in the semifinals. Most people remembered that two-legged tie in the 2007 to 2008 for Scholes' wonder strike in the second leg at Old Trafford, but Park Ji-sung was equally as instrumental in that second leg. We're talking about a Barcelona team that had superstars like Messi, Eto'o, and Deco. But Ferguson gave Pac a job and he executed it like a machine. Whether it was pressing high, tracking Messi's movements, or helping double up Xavi, Pac was everywhere, quietly but effectively. You could argue he was the man of the match in both legs. His efforts were absolutely crucial in United reaching the final in Moscow. So when the team sheet dropped and Pac wasn't in the squad at all, not even on the bench, fans were stunned. The press had questions. Even players were caught off guard. And Pac, he sat in the stands and watched. No drama, no tantrums. That kind of humility? That's rare. And years later, Sir Alex Ferguson admitted his mistake. In his autobiography, he wrote, "The one thing about the 2008 final I regret to this day was leaving Pac out after he played such a great role. It was a heartbreak moment for sure, but true to form, Pac didn't let it define him. He just came back stronger." So yeah, after the heartbreak of Moscow in 2008, you'd think Pac might have slipped into the background. But nah, that's not how he moved. Early in the 2008 to 09 season, he made sure people remembered his name. United played Chelsea away, and Pac wasn't just good, he was the best player on the pitch. Scored United's only goal in a 1-1 draw and picked up the Man of the Match award. Then came the Champions League, and Pac saved his best for when the lights were the brightest. This time against the team he scored his first Premier League goal, Arsenal. In the semi-final second leg against Arsenal at the Emirates, it didn't take long for Pac to make his mark. Just 8 minutes in, Kieran Gibbs slipped, and you already know Pac wasn't missing that chance. He pounced and led a devastating counter-attacking goal that won the game 3-1 and booked United a spot in the Champions League final for the second year in a row. And with that goal, Park Ji-sung became the first Asian player ever to play in a Champions League final. Now yeah, United lost 2-0 to Barcelona that night and it stung. But Park had earned his place. Even when he didn't get regular minutes afterward, Ferguson always turned to him in the big games. Always. Because when it came down to tactics and trust, you could count on Park Ji-sung. And if you want to talk about legendary performances, you gotta mention what he did to Andrea Pirlo. Champions League again. AC Milan, Fergie pulled Park aside and said, "You cannot be 1 yard or 1 second late. He gets no passes. None." Now, for context, Pirlo was at his absolute peak at this point. A midfield maestro, a pass machine. He averaged over 100 passes per game, and most of them were forward darts that broke lines and unlocked defenses. He was Milan's brain. But Park, he scrambled the signal, tracked him from touchline to touchline, closed space, blocked lands, pressed him out of rhythm. The numbers don't lie. Pirlo, who normally pulled the strings, ended up making just 21 passes, almost all of them backward. The best part was Park himself getting on the score sheet. That night was pure domination. So much so that Pirlo himself later wrote in his autobiography, the midfielder must have been the first nuclear-powered South Korean in history, in the sense that he rushed about the pitch at the speed of an electron. By the time Park Ji-sung turned 29, his body had started feeling the effects of all those years spent running himself into the ground for the team. The passion was there. The drive was never in doubt. But injuries began to creep back in. Despite everything, he managed to put together one last push for the Champions League. During the 2010-11 campaign, he was clutch when it counted. He chipped in with assists during the group stage and scored a crucial goal against Chelsea in the quarterfinal. That goal helped push Manchester United into the final where, once again, they would meet Barcelona. This time the venue was Wembley, and hopes were high, but things didn't go United's way. After the match, Sir Alex Ferguson said something that stuck with fans till this day. "I lost that final at Wembley. At halftime, I should have put Park on Messi. We had equalized and were playing well. I got overconfident. With Park man-marking Messi, we would have won." Injuries followed him into the next season. His legs didn't move like they used to. And while the heart was still there, the body had begun saying no. United fought to the end in the Premier League, but lost the title to Manchester City, with that gut punch of a moment from Aguero on the final day. Park never played for United again. He moved to QPR and they made him captain right away. That tells you everything about how people in the game viewed him. But the move didn't work out. The team struggled, Park's body kept betraying him, and by the end of the season, QPR had been relegated. He returned to PSV Eindhoven, the place where his European journey had started. It was a quiet, almost poetic ending. But by then, he could barely train without his knees swelling up. At just 33, Park announced his retirement, citing chronic knee pain that had simply become too much. He didn't score screamers every week or drop viral moments, but Park Ji-sung showed up in the biggest games for Manchester United. He did not only shut down the best players in the world, he sacrificed himself for the team time and time again. Some folks dismiss him as just a workhorse, someone who ran a lot and brought passion. But ask his teammates. Ask the legends who lined up next to him. Ask the managers who had to game plan against him. They'll all tell you the same thing. Park Ji-sung was world class. We've come to the end of today's video, and I've got to say, if you watched all the way through to this point, you're the real MVP. We appreciate you more than Park appreciated a tight man-marking assignment. Now tell us in the comments, was Park Ji-sung the most underrated baller of his era, or do you have someone else in mind? We're ready for the hot takes. Before you go, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. And speaking of which, go ahead and click the next video on your screen for another story just as fire as this one. You're not going to want to miss it.